40 seconds now on your timer as we are about to get going for the fourth round of the Race Department Touring Car Championship 2018 here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Grand Prix circuit. And it's going to be Ferdinand Lechner pulling away from pole position. He's got Ismail Yakubu next to him, and this race is going to be very interesting. That mandatory pit stop has always thrown a spanner into the works for all of our drivers, and it's changed positions aplenty. But will Lechner be able to make it 4 for 4 here as we are about to get going? We're going to wait for those lights to come up. We can't quite see them, but away we go. We are green, and Lechner's got an absolutely fantastic start there. So has Anders Murph on third position. Ismail Yakubu, a slow start, looking towards the inside as they all head down towards turn number 1. It's going to be Ismail looking to get the inside of Anders Murph. He does it. There's a little bit of contact. Murph's pushed off. Through goes Robert Savagangas, past Tobias Rona for P number 4, as it looks like most of our drivers, they've got through without going off the circuit. A great start indeed.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just watching the back of the
oh!
Ram.
That is Andrew Harper knocked
Andrew
off the
Harper.
circuit.
Yeah, I was just watching the back just to make sure that everybody makes it through the first corner, and yeah, it was a pretty clean start for everybody. So not quite sure what happened there with Andrew and Bram. So Andrew's back on the circuit, and he's already 11 seconds behind 29th position, which is Bram Hengelveld. So yeah, an interesting, a frustrating start there for Andrew. I would say, as Ferdinand is already 1.5 seconds nearly in front of Ismail in first position.
Over 1.5 seconds by the time they come up to the timing line, surely. Anders Murph is all under attack though from Robert Savagangas. He's got an absolutely fantastic start in this race. Murr did have a really good launch, but couldn't quite hold it on the outside line to Yakubu. But here he goes. He's looking to the inside now. Savagangas has got that outside line as they head up towards turn number 1. It's going to be Murr already dropped behind as Savagangas up to P number 3. And Rona is now going to try and make his way past Murr as he sits in 5th at the moment. As there's so many drivers really close together in this opening part of the race, looking for as many positions as they can.
Yeah, Ollie McGowan is struggling in 6th position. He's already coming up to, you know, he was 2 seconds behind Tobias in 5th, but he's losing positions. But
he's had a little bit of contact with Aki there, yeah.
The outside, and Patrick Fournier is close behind, sniffing for blood as well. So he's holding the other drivers up. So he had a good qualifying, but I don't know if he's quite got the race pace at present.
As that in the background was Steve Legale having a little bit of a moment into the wall, but he's back on circuit in P16. It's also going to be, who is that? That's Pietro Blasicek looking towards the inside of Mike McGee near the rear of your field. He couldn't quite make anything there as they head in towards the chicane. Actually quite a difficult chicane that, says now Blasicek looking to get past McGee around the outside, can't quite do it. DRS is already active though, of course. It activates on the second lap of the race, so these drivers will now be able to use DRS, but the majority of the field will actually have it.
To get past Robert Savagangas, but Robert nicely defends the inside line as Tobias is also...
Blasicek's around! Blasicek is into the pit wall. I think that would be because he had DRS open. And that looks like it's a heavy hit as his tyres are still rolling. I think he's stuck there.
Yeah, I think he might be. Yeah, I think he is stuck.
He's out.
The dreaded DRS that we predicted.
I think that is. I think that was because he had the DRS activated, and I think he just lost the rear end. The way that he's went into the inside pit wall there, it definitely looked like it would have just been
in the pits now. So
yeah, so I think that is his race over.
Yeah.
That's
most unfortunate.
As that 3-car battle for P number 3, Savagangas leading Murr and Rona, very close together indeed. And Savagangas isn't too far off of Yakubu, so they could still get onto a fight for P number 2. But that gap between Lechner and Yakubu, after just 2 laps in this race, is already over 3 seconds. Lechner's just on it once again.
Yeah, same as what we saw last time out. But I just want to draw your attention to Andrew Harper. Was 11 seconds behind Bram. Has now got that to below 4 seconds already. He's followed closely by Roy, but Roy I think has Andrew Harper goes off, so had a really bad start. Obviously, had the instant with Brown. I just keep an eye on him to see how he was doing, and he was making progress. But he's just set himself back, unfortunately.
I think that's a commentator's curse. That you said.
Paul Fenwick going down the back line, just go past Michael Klein on the made a pass there for 23rd position. So there's a lot of activity going on. I don't know where to look next, to be honest with you, mate.
Yeah, a lot of activity indeed in this opening 5 minutes of the race, but that is to be expected. As I think actually this 3-car battle that was for P number 3, they've closed up to Yakubu, and the thing is now that all 3 of those cars behind will have DRS. Yakubu does not, and therefore that will really give them an advantage along the speedway section, because you run about a quarter of the speedway here. So I think that DRS is really going to gain them a lot. And look at that, all 3 of their rear wings have already dropped down before they even got onto the speedway, and they'll be closing so much time now to Ismail Yakubu ahead.
Yeah, he's got nothing. He's got no DRS, has he? Because Lechner's that far ahead. So
and he goes defensive
already. He's got. We haven't seen this before, have we? We haven't seen Ismail under this much pressure in a race, because it's normally him and Ferdinand, break away. And I think maybe looking at qualifying, maybe we should have predicted this a bit, because he wasn't quite the gap as where we've seen before. So this is interesting stuff. And Robert, he's obviously trying to attack Ismail, but also has to keep Anders behind him at the same time.
Well, I think that Yakubu is going to really come under some pressure here, because this is, like you said, the first time that he's probably had someone challenging him for position. You saw how he had to go defensive into turn number 1, and that's just, I think he's really starting to fall out of shape, because he's had a little bit of a wobble throughout the past couple of laps when he's just pushing a bit too hard.
Sorry to break you in there. Matt Legale in 7th is looking to try to get past Patrick Fournier, and he's closely followed by Aki Borstein, one of the fast Finnish guys at race.
Oh! And around goes Matt.
Contact there between Aki, and I think Aki's just stops, which isn't really in the rules. But
no, not in the rules, and we actually saw that issue at Suzuka. With that actually brings out the yellows, and it gave a lot of people penalties in that opening round. And oh, what was that? Oh my word, I don't even know what Matt was trying to do. I think Matt was trying to push Aki for some revenge there as he sort of ran wide, and then he's been now collected by, who is that behind? Is that Ross Garland who was collected in that?
Yeah, I think it might have been, yeah. So,
just an unfortunate bystander in all of that. I think that was some sort of Matt Legale, just the temper getting the better of him.
I think we just need to make sure these drivers understand that if it is an incident, you just keep going and let the stewards decide after the race what the punishment's going to be, because like you say, if you slow down, it brings out
sorry to interrupt, but that is Tobias Rona completely off the circuit, chasing down the battle for P number 2. He was right behind it, and he's just made one little mistake, slid it off. Luckily he was able to hold it, but he's now lost a lot of time, about 4 seconds to that 3-car battle ahead of him.
So I don't know if you noticed, but Ollie McGowan has fallen down quite a way. He was in 6th or 7th position. He's now in 13th. I don't know if he had an incident at some point during the race, but that's probably, I think that was his best qualifying that we've seen so far in this league.
I don't even remember McGowan's name, to be totally honest with you, in the previous races. So either he's not raced in them, or he's just been so low and so keeping out of trouble that he's not a name to really focus on. But here goes Severick Angers on the outside of Yakubu. Couldn't quite do it there. Sorry about that, but yeah, that was a massive chance for P number 2 for Severick Angers. And now comes Mo up towards the inside, and he's going to get the inside of Yakubu as well. Was it? Oh my word, as he's trying his absolute hardest to get the inside, he's still there. They're going to run side by side still into the left-hander. It's now going to be Yakubu on the inside line. But Mert is going to be trying his hardest all over the rears. There's contact. There's got some more contact as they both get going again. Through goes Severick Angers. Down goes Mert. And away pulls Yakubu. And he's going to be really breathing a sigh of relief after that.
Well, that gives Ismail a bit of a break now, doesn't it? It's 1.5 seconds. They're out the DRS zone. But Anders Meyer, I can hear him. I'm on board with him right now. He's used the DRS a couple of times, so he's within the 1 second. And while that's all taking place, you've got Tobias behind. who's now within a second of these two. So, so yeah, interesting stuff really, because you know, Robert hasn't got the DRS at the moment unless he can get back within that 1 second.
I think it will be quite easy for Sevagangas to get back into that 1 second. He's now already within that 1 second because he had the DRS from last lap, and therefore he's going to keep the DRS.
And he's going defensive into the first corner there as Anders Meyer. And I'd just like to point out, all going up to the grass. They're all going up to the grass.
Yeah, they are. So I think that's really decided the debate that we were having about what is track limits at turn number 1, and it certainly is the grass. It's not that white line. That pulls away from it. It really makes a completely different turn for turn number 1. It makes it a lot tighter, so I'm sure that's why the drivers are going for the grass, because otherwise if everyone's doing it apart from you, you're going to lose about 1 or 2 seconds into the opening turn in itself.
Joel Kuzma now gone up to 11th position by overtaking Ollie McGowan in 12th, but Ollie is also under further pressure from Ronnie Boehm and Steve Legale and Jim Nobbs actually, so I think we can see Ollie is going to be falling further back. He just doesn't seem to have the race pace.
I don't know, actually. He's gone attacking on Joel Kuzman now, and he's back up towards the inside here, and he might be able to get back into P number 11. Through he goes. Will he be able to hold it, though? They remain side by side in capital to chicane. This is very difficult.
So he's on the outside, but it's a left-hander again, so he's now on the inside.
And through he goes. What a move there.
Yeah, very good. Well done, Ollie. I just didn't see that coming. He looked like he was struggling at that particular point, but yeah, it just shows you the commentator curse isn't always coming true.
So just behind them, though, that massive train of cars, you've got Ollie McGowan just in front, you've got Kuzmin, Boehm, Legale and Nobbs. There's 5 cars very close together in that train. That is looking at the gap between your leaders here. It is 10 seconds between Lexner and Yakubu in 10 minutes. That's about a second a lap. That's crazy. But here, Joel Kuzman's gone down.
Trying to go for the move, isn't he, on the inside? But and Robert has, you know, something has got within half a second of Ismail. Tobias is close behind. He's probably watching this, wanting to get involved in the action. As Anders Meyer now is, as they're coming to the left-hander, looks like Robert was just kind of drifted, kind of had a bit of oversteer as they entered that right-hander.
Oh, and look at that, Yakubu, massive slide out of the chicane there. So I think he's pushing a little bit too hard, but they'll all be coming up again. Those 3 cars behind will all have DRS that they can activate here, and they'll all be closing up towards Ismail Yakubu, who's going to once again have his rear mirrors just full of those 3 drivers. They head up towards someone very close to the inside wall, almost hitting it from Yakubu. But here comes Robert Sevagangas. Look how much time he's closing up there as they head up towards turn number 1. To the outside goes Sevagangas. There goes Mo as well. Has to back out of it though. Can't really make it 3 wide into turn 1. Yakubu's going to hold it on the inside line through that opening turn as they continue on through. Sevagangas remains behind, but the amount of pressure that Yakubu's under right now, I think this is more pressure in just 13 minutes than he's been under all season so far.
Yeah, he hasn't had a race like this quite yet, and you know, I think as we come towards, you know, halfway mark now, we've got 17 minutes away. You know, when you start thinking about pit strategy, I think he needs to stay out as long as he can. And what you'll tend to probably find is everybody else behind him will just wait for him to pit, and they'll follow him in. Or, you know, if they feel that they've got that extra bit of pace, Robert might want to stay out 1 more lap and then duck him the lap after. So,
well,
yeah,
the question is here between those drivers behind. They've got 2 strategies which they can play. Like you say, they can stay out and duck in with Yakubu. Or what they do is they pit a little bit earlier than what they were scheduled to pit, because if they do that, they can then get out of being behind Yakubu and might be able to jump him with an undercut. But again, they might go a little bit longer and try to do the so-called overcut. But I don't think that's going to benefit them as much. But here goes into turn number 1. Sevagangas once again tries the outside, but once again to no avail as Yakubu stays ahead. We're about a minute away from the pit window opening, though. It opens at the 45-minute remaining zone, and it will be open for half an hour. So that's quite a long time for these drivers to make a strategy call. They've got quite a large gap to decide when to come down pit lane.
What I find quite interesting, you got these 2 battling behind Ismail, and Tobias can't close the gap. So it just shows you how hard these two are pushing. As we've got a car to the side there.
Bram Hengeveld.
That's Bram Hengeveld, yeah.
May I also just say Bram has just retired?
Yeah, he has, yes.
I think.
Well, no.
No, he's just really slow. I think there may be a retirement in hand for him because, I mean, Andrew Harper's out of this race, so's Matt Legale, so is Pietro Blasap. But no, Bram gets back up to speed again. By the look of the front car, it looks like it's done one of those infamous Windows updates and it's minimized him out of the game or something, because that definitely looked like he's had a crash and then is going really slowly as maybe he tries to get back into the game or something like that.
Right, yeah, maybe.
But with that then, the pit window has now opened and Bram is definitely going to be taking that as his mandatory pit stop. As you can see, he sticks down into pit lane.
He does indeed. Yeah, I hadn't even noticed that we had 3 retirements. Unusual for Matt Legale to retire from a race.
I think that was following his incident. I think he retired immediately following that incident that he had. Because that was 5 laps ago now that he did retire. So I can only assume that following that crash, he may have almost done a rage quit, very possibly, because the incident that did occur.
We have with Aki, yes. Yeah, that's a very, very good point, yeah.
But looking once again at this battle for P number 2, and Tobias Rona's dropped off it. He won't even be getting DRS anymore, and I think that's why, even though Mur and Savig Angus are battling, I think that's why Rona can't catch up anymore, because he doesn't have DRS.
Yeah, but he was catching up at one point because he was further back, and then he caught up with.
No. If you actually remember what happened, because when Rona went around, Savig Angus and Mur, they came together, which slowed them off of Yakubu. And that allowed Rona to catch up, but these two started to charge a little bit further, and Rona has kept the same gap to Yakubu that he's had the entire time. But here goes Savig Angus once more on the outside. It looks like he's actually got further ahead this time, and it may be the chance.
According to my screen, yes.
Oh, there's contact, and they've both gone off, and it's going to be Savig Angus around, has to find his way back on. Mur is up to second, Rona down to third.
Unbelievable.
Up to third, sorry. Yakubu down to fifth as he's allowed Savig Angus back through.
Yes, a bit of damage there on the front left bumper of Ismail. Is that just a racing incident? Would you put that down to?
I think that definitely was a racing incident, because by the look of it, Yakubu was still there. And I think because of that, Savig Angus should have still left just that tiny little bit of room. And he didn't. He turned in completely in front of Yakubu, and Yakubu had nowhere to go, no matter how hard he would have tried. And that contact was almost inevitable. 2 into 1 don't go, as they say. And I think that's why the contact happened.
Yeah, I think you're right. As Ismail goes wide.
I've seen the issue that happened with Bram Hengeveld. He's completely ruined his engine. There's an engine issue for him. He hit the pit wall at full speed. That's an interesting way to crash out. So that's a shame for Bram Hengeveld.
Into the pit lane. I had a lag moment there. That was really weird. Robert decided to seem to crash into a wall, but he's now running again. So,
I think that was just like, because in my screen he was working perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Right, but okay, we are now 20 minutes into this race. We're about a third of the way through now, and we've seen the mandatory pit stop from Hengeveld, but he's actually out of this race. So technically, no pit stops have been completed yet, but I'm expecting our first stoppers to come down within the next few minutes if they want an undercut. I'm not expecting an undercut from any of those top 5 now that they've pulled away from each other following that incident. However, that massive train of cars, the 5-car train in the battle for P11, you've got to expect that some of those drivers near the rear of that, so that's Legale and Borkstein, you've got to expect them to come down pit lane just a couple of laps earlier to try and get past these guys.
Yeah, you could be right. You know, the thing is that as we found, you know, you either pit early and get the grip at the start of the second stint, but then you fade away. And I actually thought at the last race, it was more damage done actually in the last stint. The end of the second stint last time out. People were losing 3 or 4 positions because their tyres weren't able to give the grip that they needed So yeah, it's an interesting one. What do? You just go all follow in as a train and go in together, and then all have the same amount of grip, or do you duck in early? But then when you duck in early, you don't know how much earlier that's going to be because you don't know what the other driver is going to do. As Ronnie Bohm looks to make a move on Joel, and
there he goes. Joel's, I think that's just running a bit too deep there. I think he's made a bit of a mistake trying to make that move, and it means that just behind, it's also meant that Ollie McGowan has tried up the inside of Aki Borkstein now, as really the slowing down of Joel Koosman is really checkerboarded behind and sort of backed them all up. And it's really created a fight between McGowan and Borkstein as they still remain side by side. McGowan on the outside, Borkstein on the inside. They swap over as it turns into a right-hander. McGowan stays ahead, but a big sliding contact from Borkstein. Around he goes, big hit into the wall. Not Borkstein's fault at all. That was just McGowan losing the rear end, and unfortunately, Borkstein had nowhere to go to avoid it.
Yeah, it's just just a racing incident completely there, you know, caused by the driver himself. So. Could be down to tyres, I think now. I think it's normally around about now. We
and
rear ends
sorry, there's an overtake for P number 4. Ismail Yakubu has already been able to easily make the move past Robert Savagangas along pitch straight. Nice use of DRS and slipstream and just flown by. No contact between them this time. Yakubu now up to P number 4, about 4 seconds behind Tobias Rona, who's a further 1.5 seconds behind Anders Mars. So we've still got a long while to push into P number 2. But he has finished P2 every race so far this season. He's going to want to try and keep that statistic, as Ferdinand Lexner is just still pulling away so much. And it's been about, once again, a second a lap. It's been about 20 minutes. He's got about a 20-second gap.
Yeah, Ferdinand is already amongst the back markers. So setting the pace completely for the other drivers to aim for, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Joel still behind Steve Legale in 14th position. Robert Savagangas, you know, he's losing a little bit of time to Ismail now, but he's got DRS as they come down the start-finish straight around the slightly banked corner. So I'm sure that time will come down. He just needs to try and remain within the 1 second gap there. And you know, have we seen any drivers come out down pit lane yet? We haven't.
Yes, we have actually. Ingemar Peterson has just come down pit lane. As you were saying that, he's just exited pit lane actually.
Right. Okay.
So he is the first driver. He's sitting in last position of those running at the moment. Joel Koosman, though, looking to make a move back past Steve Legale, the two Red Bull boys side by side, heading up towards turn number 1. It's Koosman on the inside. Steve Legale stuck on the outside. There's going to be almost nothing you can do with that. No DRS active either, and it's going to be Koosman flying through up into P13 once more. And Rona is now within a second of Anders Mør in that battle for P number 2 as well.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. That'll be a nice little battle as we. It'll be interesting to see how Ismail catch up to those two as well, make it a nice little three-way battle, because you know I think he's on like 105 points at the moment, Ismail. Yes,
105 for Ismail. It's 108 for Ferdinand Lexner, and that's the important thing actually. With there only being 1 point difference between each driver, just one bad race could spell the end of your championship. That means if Ferdinand Lexner, for example, retires at the Nordschleife, then Ismail Yakubu could still win the championship by finishing in P10, for example. So really, you've got to be on it every single race, which is why this is not benefiting Yakubu from sitting down in P number 4 at the moment.
Well, this is it, as Tobias is within that second at the moment. So they both go past the back marker. He's within a second of Anders Mør. And you know, I think the battle here is not quite over yet with 36 minutes to go. I mean, we know who first is, but the you know, we got second to fourth to fifth even on the same part of the track on the same straight there. So anything can happen in this race over the next 36 minutes.
Exactly, and saying it's 36 minutes remaining in this race is very important, because we are about halfway. We're 5 minutes away from that. And I think now is when we'll get those major strategy calls from drivers in battles. If they're going to try the undercut, around about now is the time that they're going to want to do it. Because really, that's at 5 minutes around this circuit with the fastest lap of 1 minute 20 in this, well, 1 minute 19.4 by Ferdinand Lexter, which, bearing in mind, is actually faster than his qualifying lap.
In the pits.
Yes, he is. You're right. So Mike McGear is in the pits. He's right near the rear of your field. He actually is the rear of the field now. So he's been overtaken from Ingemar Peterson, who has also done his mandatory stop. As McGear gets moving very slowly indeed, and actually he comes to a stop again.
No, I was talking to Joel Koosman after the race 2 weeks ago, and he had some technical issues with his pit stops, which is why he had to go through the pits so many times, because the game didn't allow him to pit.
Oh, out!
He's retired.
Mike McGear out. I think that was definitely some issue with the pit stop, because you can see him sit there, roll forward, and nothing was happening. I think that's an issue with the pit stop right there. Yeah,
so Joel had an issue, which is what he didn't get any drive-throughs, but every time he came back to the pits, his pit box wasn't there, or when he did stop, or something like the car didn't get refueled. So there are some bugs in this game that need sorted. As looks like car number 22, which is Roy, was going pretty slow. No, 23. Ross Garland is in the pits.
So Ross Garland in the pits. Where does he sit in the order?
He's currently 23rd at the moment.
Ah, yes, there you go. I was trying to find him on my standings. I couldn't find him anywhere. So, yes, Ross Garland in his pits. He's going to get moving, and that is his mandatory pit stop done. And away he goes, out in last position. He's going to come out on circuit probably about 15 seconds behind Peterson once he gets back up to speed. But it's not been the race that Garland would have wanted after getting involved in that collision. After Aki Borkstein and Matt Legale came together, then whatever happened to Matt Legale then spun them around. And 1 minute, Yakubu's into second.
Oh.
How on earth has that happened? He's actually got past Rona, who's got past Mur. So they've all changed around in that battle for P number 2. When the heck did that just happen?
I don't know. We completely missed that. We're not great commentators, are we? We were focusing on the pit stop. As Michael Klein now comes into the pits as well. So he's in for his stop in 22nd position, 21st position.
21st, Michael Klein comes into the pits, yes. As it looks like Yakubu's sticking up that inside, and down pit lane comes Ismail Yakubu. So he's just fought his way into P number 2 and decided, actually, I don't want that position, and he's come down pit lane to do his mandatory stop. But is this maybe his way to mean that Rona, Mur, Savagangas, they don't get his the DRS off of him, and therefore they cannot overtake him?
Could be that indeed. That's actually not a bad idea. Just to try something different, and also it gives it a bit of fresh air as well. And well, from them guys anyway, it'll be interesting to see where he now fills back in.
Very quick stop indeed, though.
It might come out behind 16th, I think, which is Ollie McGowan. It would be close.
Right, well, I don't know, he's in P12 at the moment, down to P13, onto the circuit, he rejoins in P13, just behind Joel Koosman and ahead of Jim Nobbs, but Steve
Legale's into the pits as well now, so they're all
Anders Mur is going for an overtake once more on Tobias Rona. Through they go into the chicane. Rona's got the inside as he gets a lot of the curbing there. Almost 3 wide here as Savagangas tries to get involved. Look at that as they all come through up towards the final turn, but it's going to be Mur ahead of Rona. Savagangas still stuck behind. Will any of them dive down pit lane? Yes. All 3 of them do. No, they don't. Savagangas stays out.
So Anders Mur into the pits, followed by Tobias Rona, so that's going to be interesting. So Robert Savagangas carries on. I like the different strategies. So you know he may feel confident on the as Lorenzo Bodner is currently 3rd at the moment, so he goes down finish.
Important question here, though, is where Ismail Yakubu is on circuit in relative to those drivers in the pits. Ismail Yakubu coming around the final turn now. We got Anders Murr just coming up towards pit exit. So who's going to come out ahead? As currently Yakubu's having a fight with Joel Kuzmin coming up towards turn number 1. Is he going to come out ahead of Murr? It looks like he is not.
He's not. Anders Murr has got the position back during the pit stop.
But Tobias Rona, mind you, has dropped massively. He's 6 seconds behind these two drivers now. So he's lost 6 seconds to these guys in that pit stop. And that's a lot of time to lose, bearing in mind how close these guys were in their fight.
There is a lot of time to lose. I think Steve Legale is now coming into the pits. Or is he just... Yeah, he's into the pits as well.
Robert Savagangas has also come down pit lane as well, so yeah, he's that final driver in that battle.
How far away from you know, the likes of Anders and Ismail will he be? And because he goes into the pits, so does Lorenzo Bodner, who's currently in 3rd position. And Toby Ketterer carries on, so he'll go up into 2nd while these guys are doing their pit stops.
Right, Anders Murr and Yakubu has been able to finally find their way past Ronnie Baweem.
Also into the pits as well.
Through the final turn then comes Anders Murr and Ismail Yakubu. Where are they going to come out compared to Robert Savagangas, who's only just coming up towards the pit exit. But there they are. They've already flown by. And Robert Savagangas has lost a lot of time. It looks like he's going to come out still ahead of Tobias Rona, but a little bit of gap behind as Yakubu has made his way past Anders Murr up to P number 3 as well. So that means that Yakubu's back into a net 2nd position once Toby Ketterer has made his pit stop.
So Anders Murr then probably getting sick and tired of seeing the back of Ismail Yakubu's car at this point, because he seems to get past and then Ismail gets past again. So Ismail up into 3rd now. So Toby Ketterer currently in 2nd position, but he has yet to make a stop. And Tobias Rona nearly 4.5 seconds behind Robert Savagangas.
Ferdinand Lechner down pit lane as well from Euro's lead. So he's finally done his pit stop. We're yet to see then Ketterer come down pit lane. We're yet to see Kuzman in P9 come down pit lane. Let's see Jim Nobbs in P12 and Roy Magnus in P19. Everyone else has done their mandatory pit stops. So that's only 4 drivers we're yet to see. And surely they'll come down in the next few minutes, because otherwise they're really pushing these tyres too far. And it comes that point of, fine, they'll have fresher tyres at the end, but are you just losing more time by being on worn out tyres now than whether they would have just been to pit?
Yeah, Tobias Rona's now just had his pit stop and leaving the pits. So,
Toby Ketterer, you mean?
Yeah, Toby Ketterer. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
Tobias Rona moves up into P5 past Toby Ketterer.
He does indeed. Yes, that's exactly it. I was looking at the right car. I just said the wrong name for some unknown reason. So it'll probably start settling down now. If you know the gaps that we saw last time out, you know, in the race we found around pit stops. The gaps increased, the use of DRS dropped for a bit. Now the race needs to settle down again. Drivers need to focus, find their pace, and we'll probably find we'll get little pockets of 3 or 4 cars like we did last time out, having the battles until the end of the race.
Indeed, and I think we'll definitely see those battles definitely come up together right at the end, because now these drivers are on fresh tyres, they're going to want to try and save them as much as they can, so that right in that dying stages, the 10-15 minutes of this race, they can push as hard as they possibly can.
To pit is now doing it. That's Roy Magnus. He's the last one for his mandatory pit stop. He's in the pits to complete.
Yes, from 23rd position. Not the last driver in the race. He's still got Ross Garland behind him, who's actually just coming to go past, in fact. And now Roy Magnus drops down to P24, but we've still got Paul Fenwick out on circuit down in P25. But it's still great to see that we've only actually had 5 retirements in this race so far. We've still got 25 drivers heading around. That's an astonishing amount, bearing in mind we've been racing on quite a difficult circuit, you may say, for certainly not the most difficult one, Nordschleife. If we get any more than 10 drivers finishing that, I will take my hat off, because, oh my word, that would be fantastic. But even this circuit, it's very easy to spin the car, and we've seen that. And with full damage on, it's so easy to damage a car to irreparable residences, as we've seen from Bram Hengevel's engine retirement. So I think that it's still amazing that we've got 25 cars still running in this.
Well, we had a bit of a weird one, didn't we, with Pietrek in getting stuck on the pit entry there and had to retire because of that. So his wheels were definitely spinning, but couldn't get the car loose. So had to retire, which is a shame. But you know, I'm surprised we haven't seen any more of those kind of instances like we spoke about in during qualifying. When you hit the DRS, you're on a banked corner, and the chance of losing the rear end, I think, is quite high. So Yakubu's pulled a bit of a gap there from Anders Meyer, hasn't he, currently? So he's finding some pace, unless Anders is the one struggling. You never quite know who's found the pace, who hasn't.
And Aki Borkstein, actually, in P number 9, he's got into a few scraps today, Matt Legale being one of those. He also came together with Ollie McGowan as well. He's now all over the rear of Magnus Sternberg for P number 8 as he looks towards the inside, reaching the top end of the gearing. You could hear as the engine almost sounded as it cut out as it reached its road limits, but he's going to be around the outside here, and through he goes past Magnus Sternberg. What an overtake there in towards those first turns. Very nicely done.
A good move, and if you know, he probably wanted to make sure that after he had an incident-free overtake. Like you say, he's had a bit of an incident-filled race today, and you know, maybe, you know, hindsight's one thing, but he should not have slowed down for that for the incident earlier in the race, because I think he caused the next incident because of that, and probably caused some confusion. So
oh no, we've definitely seen it every time. We've learnt it from that opening round in Suzuka when Steve Legale came together with another driver. I'm not too sure what other driver it was. But Steve, I think it was Steve, who decided to slow down right at the exit of the final chicane at Suzuka to allow this driver to get back on and race again. But what he didn't realise...
Sorry to cut you off there. Michael Clean and Jim Nobbs are currently having a battle. There's been a bit of contact as Steve Legale watches from behind. This is the battle for 20th and 21st position as they come down the straight in the middle of the circuit, as Michael takes the inside approach and can't quite make it stick. So it's probably one of the closest battles on the circuit right now. And like I say, Steve Legale not far behind, just watching this, see what unfolds in front of him as they come round to the final corner now, onto the fast start finish straight.
A great battle indeed, and just quickly to finish off what I was saying is the fact that when you slow down it brings out yellows, and if you overtake under yellows, what we saw at that opening round, it gave 2 drivers drive-through penalties. And not only did I think it was Steve, ruin that driver's race of the one he hit, but then he also ruined 2 other drivers' races by slowing down to try and be kind. And obviously he was only doing it out of the goodness in his heart, but we found out after opening round that do not follow the golden rule in this league race, because we will do it in race reports at the end, doing steward incident reports, and we do focus on those a lot and we take them very seriously, so it's not something that would just be overlooked. But you are right that issue with Aki then slowing down definitely caused the next crash between Ross Garland, Aki Borkstein and Matt Legale.
And maybe that's the problem with, you know, with doing so many club races, because maybe it's just instinct now that, you know, when you cause an incident, you slow down.
Oh no, definitely, and it's a good thing to have. If you cause an incident, slow down. Very gentlemanlike, very sportsmanship. Yeah, exactly. Right. But the issue is, when it comes to a league like this, where it's very professional, it can cause issues, and we've seen those issues arise in the past, and they've been mentioned in the forums that don't do this because it causes these issues. And I know that sometimes in the heat of the moment you're like, oh damn it, just let him through, I don't want to get penalised. But you could cause more issues, which is exactly what it did.
Yeah, and
sorry, yes, it's going to be Jim Nobbs onto the inside of Ingham and Peterson in a battle between them for P number 19. Through goes Nobbs up to P19, and now Ingham is all under attack from Michael Crane, and off he goes, and he slides it around. That's a real shame. He's going to find his way back on circuit in P number 20. 2, unfortunately for him. But that
so that leaves Steve Legale to challenge Michael Clean now in 20 position, and just up the road is Jim Nobbs, not far, who just made the overtake move. So nice little trio there, really.
Yeah, and it just shows that no matter where you are on the track, as these guys are in 19th through 21st, that the battles are absolutely great, and they are just so close, and they communicate with each other in such a way that the amount of incidents you have are limited, and that's great.
Magnus Steinby's struggling in 9th position into the first corner, and Jeremy Mook took full advantage of that. As they came into the first corner, I noticed that Magnus Steinby had taken a wide line, because I know we've been obviously a discussion about, you know, is it the white lines, is it the grass, and Jeremy Mook just came on the inside, and then as they came out of the corner, Magnus could see the rear end of his car was really struggling, and Jeremy just took the position.
Magnus running onto the grass ever so slightly there along the straight, very weird, but it is going to be, maybe he has some sort of damage here on his machine, that is meaning that it has some sort of understeer, or the suspension is broken in some way. But it definitely looks like he has some sort of issue, because he's lost an astonishing amount of time, almost 1.5 seconds to Jeremy Mook in just one lap. So I think he's got some sort of issue here. But again, you are right, coming back to that turn 1 talk that we had during qualifying. So what is track limits? And I'm sure there was a massive discussion during that practice session. What are track limits? And I think they would have all agreed where they were. And let's see what Magnus Sternberg does here once more, as he gets in this time, so he doesn't run wide. And
McCown making a move on Ronnie Bowie for 12th position into the first corner, makes it stick. Ronnie seems to have dropped back a little bit there.
I think actually what it is, if all drivers seem to be doing that now, they sort of seem to be giving the position up as someone gets onto their inside. And I think I know why. You've still got 19 minutes of this race left. If you were struggling with tyre wear in that first stint, you'd best save it now and have tyre life for the end of the race, because otherwise you're going to be dropping off so much time coming the end. And look at that massively wide line from Boehm there. As I say, back marker, I think that's Paul Fenwick allowing these drivers through as they come up towards that chicane. But at the moment, though, it is McGowan ahead of Boehm in the battle for 12th and 13th. There's Seville Gangas is sort of closing the gap up to Anders Murr. It's about a second between them. But it's fantastic to see that Lexner has got that 30-second gap. Yakubu now is away from any type of pressure. And Magnus Sternberg is off the circuit. He's around into the wall at the start of the speedway section.
Yeah.
He's trying to find his way back on.
On my spectator man, I saw he dropped. He went kind of a different colour to say something was really up. Something had gone wrong there. So yeah, he seems to be struggling now. It doesn't seem to be much damage on his car, though, does there?
No, it doesn't look like it
in any instances. No. As behind them, we've got John Patterson making a move on Tom Lombards.
And through he goes, actually. Lombards now down to P15. John Patterson in P14, as we are really now getting to that point in the race. We're into the coming up to the final 15 minutes. We're going to see drivers start to slowly close the gap to the drivers around them, and that final 10 minutes is going to be really when they decide, I'm going for this move, I want that position, and I'm going to put it all on the line for it. Robert Savagangas all over the rear of Anders Murr. They are very close in the battle for P number 3 and 4 as they come through the first sector of the circuit.
Yeah, that gap has really closed down the last couple of laps around the circuit. So, you know, as I think Anders Murr did pit before Robert, didn't he? I think a couple of laps. So
yes, Murr would have
maybe this is now starting to pay dividends. But like we say before, you know, if you're behind a car, it does affect your downforce. It does affect your tyre wear. But you can see Ismail just up ahead. As well, so he's currently 4 seconds ahead of Anders, but the gap between Ferdinand Lechner and Ismail is 30 seconds.
It is crazy, that gap between Lechner and Yakubu, and I mean that just shows that Lechner, I think, is going to be able to win here easily. I think he's going to have a really easy victory at Spa. It's going to be whether he stays on the circuit at the Nordschleife and just retirement from that, or a really bad result, so outside the top 10, could still lose him the championship depending on where Yakubu finishes. So he's got to stay on it all the way to the end. Robert Savagangas has just made his way into P3, past Anders Mur up towards turn number 1. So now Savagangas rounds out that podium position. Mur, who's been strong all season long and so far, sitting in 4th, just behind Robert Savagangas.
We've got Ferdinand Lechner is your leading man on circuit. Ismail Yakubu currently in 2nd. Robert Savagangas in 3rd. In 4th, we've got Anders Meyer. 5th, Tobias Rona. 6th, Patrick Fournier. 7th, Aki Bonkstein. 8th, Toby Ketterer. 9th, Jeremy Mook. And Lorenzo Bondner rounding out your top 10.
It is amazing. And actually, by the look of it, we've got the top, what is that, 12, I think, on the leading lap still. I'm not too sure. I'm not 100%. Might only be the top 10. But that's still a number of drivers on the leading lap of the race with only 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, top 15. I think Alves is according to what I'm seeing, is 1 lap down, or was just a moment ago on the board. So
I don't think that's probably right. I'm looking at what the timing is for it. The fastest lap is through goes Mur.
Back into 3rd position down the start-finish straight.
Flashing his headlights towards the back marker of it in front of him, and that's going to be him turning in, almost collecting Robert Savagangas as he turns in to make the turn. Luckily, Savagangas was just fast enough to break free of that, and he remains behind Mur. But is this now going to be what it's going to be every lap? Because they remain very close all lap long, and then during that end, depending on who's got the DRS, they sort of switch over, because it's the person behind is able to then go through. So I'm not too sure. Where did Mur pass Savagangas? Because he still could have DRS this lap. But I do believe that the slipstream is stronger than the DRS.
Yeah, so Savagangas, and Asmar still staying within that 4-second gap between, Ismail Yakubu as they start approaching. I'm not sure who it is in front. It might be Joel Kuzman and Steve Legale.
Yeah, that's that battle for P number 19 in front of them.
Yeah. So.
Oh, we've had another retirement. Paul Fenwick is out of this race.
Oh, that's a shame.
I knew that he was a couple of laps down anyway. He wasn't having the strongest of runs, but that's a shame that he's recently retired. But here goes Savagangas for the move. He is the one with DRS, but he comes up now towards turn number 1. They've got those battling of Joel Kuzman and Steve Legale just up ahead.
Goes wide at turn number 1.
And he allows them through. Very close, very close.
Oh.
But that's really separated the battle between the two Red Bulls now. Joel probably hoping that Steve Legale loses just as much time when these two battling get past him as well.
Yeah, but Joel was under attack from Steve, which is why he went wide at turn number 1 and lost it. Currently in 20th position. Joel actually was very helpful with me on Saturday, trying to get my setup right for the WEC race, which was a very intense hour and a half, I must say. When you got LMP cars whizzing past you at every moment, unbelievable.
If you think that was intense, just imagine how the drivers of the RDLMS last year felt. Bearing in mind they had 6 to 24-hour races with multiple classes on that, and I raced in one of those, and I can tell you it's not an easy thing to do. So hats off to those guys who did do the entire damn season. I only did one race and it was difficult enough, but it looks like Steve Legale has made his way out of the way of Robert Savagangas, but that gap between Mur and Savagangas has now increased. And is that maybe the later pit stop for Savagangas really coming into play here? Or was that Mur just trying to save his tyres a little bit more and maybe fight back in the final few minutes of this race?
We've got a couple of close battles going. We've got Ollie McGowan in 12th, currently closing down on Ronnie Boehm. Aki Bornstein in 7th position, closely following Patrick Fournier. And you've got Joel Kuzman is catching up with Steve Legale now. So
I think that definitely with Steve Legale allowing Savagangas and Mur through, I think that allowed him Kuzman to really catch up.
Done Joel a little bit of a favour there, definitely. And when we've got in 10th position, you've got Lorenzo Bondner trying to catch up with with Jeremy Mook, as they both take completely different lines into the first corner. So Jeremy Mook's gone wide on the left.
Oh! That was Paul Hurlow off and around at the chicane and almost collected by a number of drivers heading through as we were riding on board with Joel Kuzman. How close he got to Hurlow. That must have been a very scary moment indeed for all of those drivers having a go into that chicane. A much tighter chicane with Paul Hurlow's car sat on the apex. But they all got through without any contact. Paul Hurlow gets moving again down in P20. That pushes Steve Legale up to P18. Joel Kuzman now into P19.
So potentially some brown stuff on the racing seat, is that what we're saying?
Very possibly.
Heart in mouth moment. Heart in mouth
yes.
moment. As John Patterson is getting to know Magnus Steinby very, very well at present. I think this is the closest battle out on circuit for the 13th position. Steinby we've seen struggling a little bit earlier on, and then had an incident into the wall on the start-finish.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but Lorenzo Bonda all over the rear of Jeremy Mook. They both go to the right, wobbling their cars as they head towards to try and go aggressive. On defending it around goes Bonda. I think there was contact from Mook there as Mook made his way across the circuit. Not too much time lost though. Even with that contact, Lorenzo Bonda's only lost about 2 seconds to Mook and is going to get straight back on it and try to catch back up. But that was a big slide up towards turn number 1. Was there contact there? It looked like there was.
Yeah, I didn't quite see it. What happened there? I had a cockpit view in one of the drivers, and the wrong one I think I chose, so I didn't actually see what occurred on that particular instant. As I'm still looking at John Patterson, but he's behind Magnus Steinby. Magnus does seem to be struggling with that rear end of that car today. I don't know if it's a setup issue. Because, I mean, we've still got 9 minutes to go, as John is also being chased down by Tom Lombards as well at the moment. So that's 13th, 14th and 15th position, still very close together.
Well, I had to say that actually Sternbreeze only looks like he's sort of lost the grip in his car really in this second half of the race, because since his pit stop I just don't know whether he's maybe not been able to get the temperature into his tyres, or maybe he's just put on some old set. I don't know, but yeah, he just doesn't look as confident as he was in that opening start, because he was quite high up there. He was in the top 10.
It's just coming to a stop. Oh,
who's that?
That was lag again. I keep getting lag tonight. Sorry, I was getting weird bits of
Oh, Ollie McGowan down the position. Ronnie Boeem's been able to make his way through up to 11th. And McGowan's another one that's lost so much since his qualifying, because he qualified, what, 6th position, 7th position?
Yes, he did indeed.
Yeah, 6th. And a really good qualifying position for McGowan, but it's fallen right down the order to P12. He was further down, and he's had an incident this race as well. He has already been knocked around into the wall just through this part of the circuit where he was here, as he slid the rear end, collected by Aki.
Clean on the on the start-finish straight, trying to get past Paul Hurlow for 20th position. Got the inside for first corner. Yeah, makes the move stick. Nice and simple with the DRS. The Paul Hurlow will be looking to get that position back off him the following lap.
Oh, gets very close to the rear end of Michael Clean there as he pushed a little bit too hard, but you're all right. Yeah, that's the thing now. It is getting to that point near the end of the race where these positions, they're going to be changing every single lap. Drivers are going to want to be the one ahead, and they're just going to constantly go for it. And turn number 1's pretty much the only place we're seeing proper overtakes start to be made, and that's because you've got GRS all the way along the banking of the oval, and you've got it all the way down towards turn number 1. So that's where drivers think, yeah, this is a place where you can make it. As long as you've got the slipstream, you've got the GRS, you've got so much more speed, and you can just easily float on through.
So Ollie McGowan is trying to make a move on Ronnie Boeem, but the DRS didn't quite get him close enough, and then he tried to take a little look into the second phase of that corner. So if he could just stay steady, keep it smooth, and stay within, maybe 0.7 of a second behind Ronnie, I think he could nail him down the start-finish straight. But then as soon as you do, it's role reversal, isn't it? It's about trying to get that gap up through the more complex section of the circuit, shall we say, to try and get out of the DRS zone for the driver behind you, because the hunted becomes the hunter.
I thought it was the hunter becomes the hunted, but the hunted becomes the hunter. Yep, that's the same sort of thing. As McGann's then going to have straight on behind DRS active. They fly up towards turn number 1. The gap decreasing. It's about 6/10. It's getting closer and closer here as they fly on through. But look at that, not going for the slipstream as McGann. He's going to remain behind Boehm, but he's got, looks like the better line here. Sitting on the outside, you can get it turned in a little bit faster. But it's not really going to be enough because he's still going to be behind and nowhere near close enough to really go for a proper overtake here. And I think that's because he just didn't go for the slipstream, and that was a weird call for McGowan to make. Maybe he's waiting until the very last moment to make that move back through, but a little bit of a slide, and he's lost half a second in this opening lap.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I know he'll still have DRS on the previous lap, but he is falling back in the more intricate section of the circuit, and yeah, it's gonna be tough for him to make that move. I mean, he's not really got any threats behind. I mean, Magnus Steinby is 12 seconds behind, so this does look like, unless he can get past Ronnie, which is looking less and less likely as we go by each corner. 12th position, if he keeps it on the black stuff, it's going to be his, because just under 5 minutes to go now.
Yeah, it's about 1.5 seconds between them now. It's just behind that, actually, that battle between Sternberg and John Patterson. 3/10 as they come up towards that the final turns. But a little bit of time lost from Patterson. He has a little bit of a wobble, but DRS active. They go up onto the banking of the speedway, and now through
second time
the
he had
final
a wobble
turn.
out of that corner, because the last time round he had to hit the brake because the car had a bit of a wobble. So he's struggling there. It must be the DRS maybe hitting it open too early.
The thing is about that corner is because you've got DRS and it's a slight, the way you go up onto the circuit, there is a slight bounce. It's certainly not a flat transition, so you have got that sort of a little bit of a wobble in the car anyway. If your car ride height is just a little bit too low, that will completely unsettle the car there. Then add DRS, and as you say, DRS there is almost lethal. We saw a lethal incident at the very start with Pietro Blasicek with his DRS as he went around, hit the wall and out. But John Patterson still all over the rear of Magnus Sternberg.
Ismail's coming up to lap these two very shortly as well, so that'll throw a potential spanner into the works for John or for Magnus.
Well, it could. Last time that we saw, we actually properly watched how a lapping car affected a battle. That would have been the Steve Legale and Joel Kuzmin battle, of which it allowed Steve Legale to pull away, but then it closed right back up again. So I don't think that's going to change anything. But here they come up towards the final line. You've got Ismail Yakubu just behind on that screen. Then we've got 3 minutes remaining in this race. And Ferdinand Lechner is leading by 35 seconds ahead of the rest of your field. He's doing an absolutely fantastic job here. And I think he's going to absolutely dominate this season. I think the Nordschleife is going to be anyone's only chance of trying to beat him here. But up towards turn number 1, and to the inside goes Patterson on Magnus Sternberg. Has to slam on his brakes to avoid some contact as he remains behind in P14. Very close between these two as they continue to fight with less than 3 minutes to go.
Indeed, I wonder if Magnus can keep him in that position. John probably thought he'd have to move stuff by now.
Sternberg wide. Sternberg slid it and is wide, and now Patterson very close to the rear end. And now surely that's going to give him some confidence to try and make the way through, because that was a big mistake from Magnus Sternberg just up ahead. And like you said before, he's just not looking confident at all in that car. No,
he's not, and I don't think it gives John confidence. It sucks confidence from Magnus, when you get things like that. So all in the psychology of the race driver.
And there he goes.
Takes a much better line there.
I think that is just Magnus Sternberg almost like allowing him through. Look, you can go through because now I can get the slipstream and I can get back into turn number 1. I'm not letting you have that position because that could be it. So that could be a strategic play here for turn number 1. We shall see. That's DRS active from Patterson, but is the slipstream strong enough? It looks like they're neutralising each other out right now.
Yeah. As it sounds like Magnus Steinby might have been hitting the rev limiter a little bit there as well, a little bit of bouncing around off the rev limiter, but as he goes over the curb, oh yeah, look, he's all over the, well, he's letting Ismail through now, but he does not look comfortable in that car. And the thing is that now Thomas Lomberts is only 8 seconds behind. He's catching up pretty quickly, so I know there's only a minute of race time left.
Talking about there's only 1 minute of race time actually. Ferdinand Lechner is coming up to the final turn now, so we're going on to the final lap of this race. Ferdinand Lechner coming up towards the timing line for the penultimate time, as he will lead that Playboy machine, that Playboy on the front there. Perfect car for him, I think. As he comes up towards turn number 1, he dives up towards the inside of Patrick Fournier. So that's 7th position being lapped. That's still 6 cars on the lead lap. That's still a really good result to have. But 30 seconds left on the clock. Ferdinand Lechner, once again a dominant run, and he will continue to have won every race in this series. Every race of, well, every league race of 2018. He's absolutely on top form at the moment.
Yeah, just a cut above the rest of the group, really, isn't he? I mean, we've every single race winning, gets pole every time out. He does appear to sandbag in practice. You know, he'll be setting some fast times, as what I've seen, and then he'll pull off at the last moment, not setting the third and final sector, just to kind of keep his you know, his times hidden. But I don't really know if there's much point.
Sternberg's down again. Sternberg's down at P20, but here comes Lechner coming through the final turn. Then he's going to take checkered once more. 4 of 4 for him. Ferdinand Lechner is going to win here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he will continue to dominate. We've still got 40 seconds until Ismail Yakubu is going to come across the line. But what a shame for Sternberg. He's now down to P21. He's really not looking confident, and his car is wobbling absolutely everywhere. Is he?
Yeah, I called it. I called that, didn't I? I called that ages ago.
You did indeed, as Ronnie Beween finishes only just behind Ollie McGowan. It was about 6,000 of a 600, sorry, of the second between them on my timing.
Ismail coming across the start-finish line now to come into second position.
Yes, and it'll be a further 9 seconds behind for Anders Murr to take the final step of the podium. As he flashes his lights across the line, he's pleased with that.
I think he's happy with that. Yeah.
And
Robert Severangis comes across in 4th, and closely followed by Tobias Rona in 5th position. And it's a long way back to Aki in 6th position, 25 seconds.
It is, as Jim Nobbs is only half a second behind Michael Klein as they come across the line. It's only just going to be Klein, 3/10 of a second as they come across the timing line there. We have reached the end of this race, and once again, what a fantastic race it has been. We are going to get your results. Ferdinand Lechner winning the race then with a fantastic fastest lap time, but Yakubu only 2/10 off of that. Murr then got 3rd, Severangis in 4th, Rona 5th, Borkstein, Fournier, Ketterer, Mook and Bondo rounding out your top 10. We then have McGowan, Boehm, Patterson, Lombard, Alvarez, Kuzman, Steve Legale, Klein, Nobbs, Harlow, Sternbury, Peterson, Magnes and Garland. Unfortunately, retirements from Fenwick, McGear, Hengeveld, Harper, Matt Legale and Pieter Belasasak. But what a race indeed it's been once again here. Absolutely fantastic. What did you think of that?
That was fun as always, wasn't it? It's a bit disheartening when you got Ferdinand Lechner kind of so far ahead of Ismail this time round, and Ismail had a bit of defending to do for a long part of the first half of the race, but then the pit stops came along and that all changed, didn't it? And then we had the battle for 3rd position. So, but lots of little mini battles going up and down from I would say 2nd all the way to the end, and I think we had 6 retirements in the end.
Yeah.
And a couple of you know, big instances which I'm sure will be talked about on the forums once everybody relaxes. And you know, for me, the biggest incident for me was the one where Aki was involved, and you know, should never have slowed down. And I think then was, you know, meant that was it Matt Legale who then had the the incident, and because of that retired, and the faithful admin Bram obviously destroyed his engine as well. So some big instances tonight.
Yeah, definitely, but I don't know what that sort of means for the final 2 rounds. I think going out to Spa next time out, it's going to be with Yakubu. It looks like he's definitely starting to feel the pressure of this championship. He's still very close to Lexner, and like I said before, Lexner just needs one tiny mistake, and that could be his championship gone. So Yakubu's still got that pressure there. He's still within an easy fight in this championship going up towards the Nordschleife. But I think what the real fight's going to be is that final round. So next time out at Spa, we're going to see these sort of battles again. We're going to see Lexner dominate again. That's my prediction. But the Nordschleife, very tricky. I don't think we're going to see Lexner dominate. I think we can see him very near the top and very likely to win it. But I don't think he's going to have as dominant run as he's had so far this season, purely because of the difficulty of the circuit.
I don't know. I mean, he strikes me as a person that when you're watching race, it doesn't matter what kind of challenge is chucked at him, he'll lead the way. But it'll be interesting to see what happens between second, third, and fourth again. That was a really strong battle for the first half of the race, and you know, and like I said at the beginning of this race, you know, Indianapolis it's pretty flat. If we look at Spa, it's not, is it? It's an old traditional circuit, you know, that used to be run on public roads back in the day. You know, it's probably one of the longest, is the longest maybe in the F1 circuit, or if not, is probably one of the longest in the F1 circuit. And you know, and the Eau Rouge, I mean, what an amazing corner that's going to be. And there's going to be some overtaking opportunities, aren't there? So if you look at Eau Rouge, and then you've got the straight following that into the chicane, and that's definitely going to be an overtaking spot. Because I think tonight we've only had one, which is in the first corner. And then for me, it's around the back half of Spa. It's the bus stop chicane.
Well, the bus stop's the final.
Yeah.
I would have to say, actually, for Spa, you've got, I think, instead of counting what corners you can make an overtake on, I think you need to count the ones you can't make an overtake on, because that would take you so much less time. Purely because what you've got, the corners that you really can't make an overtake on will be Eau Rouge. You can't then make it through. Probably can't make it through the, I think it's the, what is it, Blanchimont? The really fast left-hander, right near the end, before the bus stop. You can't make an overtake there, because that will cause into absolute chaos. I think they're really the two corners on the circuit where you have no chance at all. Maybe the corner with no name, which is right near the top of the circuit after that first chicane. You got that right-hander and that first left-hander up there. That maybe you can't overtake there. But other than that, the circuit is full of overtaking locations. It's full of places you can use DRS. Slipstream will come into advantage. And I think it's going to be an absolute fantastic fight the entire race.
Yeah, it is a circuit that allows for very close racing as well. And in some cases, you know, where it's trying to just string the corners together. So 7, 8, and 9 in particular. And then as you come down from 9, you go down the hill and you get the braking point into 10 for the right-hander. You know, that's really important. Otherwise, you go wide. And then you've got that. And then as you come out of 10, you've got the sharp left-hander for 11. And then 12 is a really fast section. And then you've got the mini straight following that. And again, possibly into 13 and 14 could be an opportunity there for some overtake, especially in these DTM cars as well, which has got the wings. And again, I think, you know, do you run low downforce and make the most out of DRS and the straights, or you know, so what kind of setup are people going to go for? As we saw tonight, Magnus in particular was really struggling with the rear end of his car. Now, for me, that, you know, he was struggling quite early on, and I suspect that's probably due to setup rather than anything else. But yes, it'll be. I think it'll be one of the most interesting races we will have so far, because I love Spa. I think it's a great circuit.
I think it'll certainly be one of the most interesting races so far, but I think Nordschleife's going to trump it all. But if you do want to see how interesting Spa is, be sure to join us in 2 weeks' time as we head out for the penultimate time in the Race Department Touring Car Championship 2018. We hope you did enjoy, and I hope you hit that follow button to be notified when we go live next. Thank you very much for watching, though, and we will see you next time from myself, Joseph Wright, and Paul Gower,
Hey, wake up.
goodbye.
Cheerio.